Hi, good afternoon. I'm Vince from Asian Pacific Community Awareness. I'm the president and the founder, and I'm here this evening with
Noah Malgeri,
Amber Latte Cafe,
U.S. Congress District 3.
U.S. Congress District 3. I'm sure we will say that quite a few times before the interview is over, so don't forget. Um, so Noah, thank you for taking the time.
Thanks, Vince. Great to be with you.
And the first question I'd like to ask you, if you get to the Senate, what are one of the first or two things that you would like to do? And I understand being a freshman senator, it's like being
Congress.
a Congress. It's like being a freshman in college.
Yes.
You know, you get everything thrown at you.
Right.
How are you going to manage that to get what you want done?
There's a number of things we need to do, but immediately we need to secure the border. This is a crisis. This is an absolute, it's an invasion. It's a 100% an invasion. So we need to send the military to the border to secure it, and we need to complete the wall and keep the military there guarding. The cartels have operational control of the border at this point. The Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas basically has handed operational control of the border to the cartels. They're generating record amount of profits. I don't know where that money's going, if politicians are getting paid off to keep the border open, because it's the biggest human trafficking and drug trafficking operation in human history that's destroying the country. So we need to deploy the military to the border, absolutely. I think we need to impeach Joe Biden immediately. I think Joe Biden, I've already drafted articles of impeachment for Joe Biden. They've been on my website for almost a year now. And he's destroying the country. I mean, literally destroying the country. Whether it's the border situation, the humiliating Afghanistan withdrawal that set us back militarily, and from a foreign policy perspective, I think a generation at least in the United States. What a debacle and a kick in the teeth to veterans everywhere. 20 years we spent there in Afghanistan, $3 trillion spent on that war. It's 10% of our entire national debt, which is $30 trillion approximately, was associated with that 20-year war. 20 years we went in there, we secured the country from the Taliban for 20 years, and then after 20 years, handed them the keys back and said, thanks, we're done, and gave them all our military equipment. $85 billion in military equipment, Vince. We could have given that to Ukraine, right? Instead, we had to spend another $60 billion on top. We could have given that military equipment to Ukraine. Instead, we gave it to the Taliban, who've been shooting at us for 20 years.
I agree with you. When you say put the military at the border, are you talking about? I know the National Guard is military, but you're talking about Marine Corps, Army, or National Guard?
Well, we could federalize the National Guards, we could federalize the National Guards, but I think we could also deploy Title X soldiers, active duty, regular forces, constitutionally. Congress has a numerical power to call forth the military to protect against invasions. So we ought to do that. And I think we could use some military police brigades, Army military police brigades. They're trained for that mission. It's exactly the mission they could easily secure the border, but that needs to be secured as a first absolute order of business. Then we have to return to energy independence. I mean, we talk about national security. The heart of national security, Vince, is energy independence, right? I mean, you look at NATO, right? The NATO alliance. Well, what does it mean? Because if Russia invades Ukraine and the Germans, depend completely on the Russians for their energy, then they can't do anything against the Russians, right? They can't, because they're dependent on that shows, right? They're dependent in Europe. They're dependent on the Russians, which is a potential adversary for them militarily, and increasingly so. And if you depend on your enemy for your energy, you're in a bad shape. So the United States depends heavily on foreign powers. We could be energy independent. We could be a net exporter, and that includes not just the hydrocarbon economy, which is oil and gas and fuel, petroleum products, but also natural gas as well, but also rare earth elements, which is kind of like the heart of the new energy economy, the green energy economy, lithium, rare earth elements. We could become independent. We've got tremendous reserves of all of these types of resources that we're neglecting, and I think it's intentional. I think, but it makes us extremely vulnerable to international adversaries, whether it be China, whether it be any. Instead, what we're doing is we're buying oil from dictatorships, from the Saudis, from the Venezuelans, from the Iranians, and from the Russians.
I agree with you, but it's not just oil. We're buying everything that affects our national security from our enemies. Why do we do that?
Vince, you are 100% right. Whether it's pharmaceuticals, all of our medicines, so many of our products we depend on, especially dependent on China. Now, my plan, and President Trump had started this with the USMCA, the U.S.-Mexico trade agreement. But what we want to do, what I want to do, is have everything we need in this North America and South America. So we'll make trade agreements with all South America, Central America, Mexico, the United States, and Canada. Everything we need is right here, and that is much more secure. It makes us much less vulnerable.
I agree with you. I know a little bit about this firsthand because when I worked for Citibank, I worked in Puerto Rico, and I had to give a speech on a tax law called 914 or 940. I don't remember exactly. It was like 30-something years ago, and it gave U.S. corporations in Puerto Rico a tax exemption.
Right.
And our pharmaceuticals were all manufactured in Puerto Rico to help their economy.
Yeah.
And then the Democrats came along and imposed a lot of regulations, and this is why all the pharmaceuticals left and went to China.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is extremely dangerous. It's a terrible vulnerability. It puts us in a precarious situation. It limits our options militarily and in terms of foreign policy. Makes us subject to undue influence from our military and economic adversaries globally. And it's a really an intolerable situation for what once was the greatest country in the world.
Yeah, I still think we're the greatest country in the world, even with all our problems, but the G is getting smaller.
There you go. I agree with that.
Being in Congress, I like to say this because I love this movie. Did you ever see the movie Mr. Smith Goes to Washington?
No, I never did.
Okay.
Jimmy Stewart? Or?
Jimmy Stewart played Mr. Smith. He was, I believe, a young senator, and he had this idea of building a boys' town. And everybody was against him because they wanted to build a dam, and a dam that didn't need to be built. And he stood on the floor of the Senate until he almost fell down. Are you, as a congressman, willing to stand up for what you believe in the border or any other issue?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in terms of taking positions that make me susceptible to controversy, criticism, or attack, I'm by far the most out front of any candidate in this race. I've been attacked in the national media for my positions, whether it be on the election, which I believe was stolen. I believe that election was stolen. I don't believe Joe Biden was rightfully elected. And I believe we need to have consequences for that. I think there needs to be accountability. We need to have an investigation, get to the bottom of it. There's too many questions. But whether it be that, whether it be my immigration positions about the border, whether it be my positions about trade, the Chinese Communist Party, or and I also think we should not be sending $60 billion to Ukraine, which is one of the most corrupt countries in the entire world. Well, how much of that money is going to actually get in the hands of Ukrainians? Who knows? It's probably less than half.
I agree with you, and I read something about that, and I think the average person doesn't know how corrupt Ukraine is. That doesn't mean we should not help them, but like you said, we should have stepped in a few months ago and sent them the material that they needed, the weapons, the armory, and so on. Sending them the money. The question comes now, and this is a current event, what happened yesterday in Texas.
Right.
Why can we find money to help a country like Ukraine or any country, or even send money to Nicaragua and Mexico in hopes that people are not coming across and help them with their economy when you can't even put their out in school?
Absolutely, and this gets back to saying that we should source all of our resource, anything that we need. We should manufacture, build within North America, South America, Central America. That'll create jobs in these places as well. People will be less likely to come here. But you're absolutely right. It makes no sense. It has to do with corruption, money and corruption.
Right.
These politicians, they're getting paid for this. Is the most notorious money laundering regime and country in the world is Ukraine. That the deep state is basically uses as their own money laundering country. The Zelensky regime and everything over there. You remember the bill? Biden only asked for $33 billion, right? Congress said, let's make it 40. And they keep making it more and more because they're getting a cut, as far as I'm concerned. They're getting paid. They're getting some kind of benefit, and that means they have a conflict of interest. They're not acting in the interest of the United States citizens, our families, our businesses. They're being disloyal to us because they want to get paid. That's what I believe. I believe that they're corrupt.
Well, I happen to agree with you, and I'm glad you said that because I know a lot of candidates that I talk to uh, don't really want to put that out there, except for two that I know, and one is Tom Heck, and the other one is Guy Noah.
Yes.
Both of them are aware of that, and I think both those gentlemen are not afraid to stand up like yourself. So, um, your concern is about the border, and being in Congress, you're also supposed to represent Nevada. How do you do that? How do you vote on something that maybe is controversial to somebody, to people in Nevada, and vote with your party?
Yeah, I mean, people in Nevada are sick and tired of the drugs coming across the border illegally that are killing. You walk down the street I live downtown in Vegas, right? You walk around, there's everybody's zombies. Vince. They're on drugs, they're on fentanyl, who knows what, they're dropping dead. We know people who have died from fentanyl. Or people whose family members have died from fentanyl. Folks are not excited about that. They don't like unchecked illegal immigration. People are coming across there unvetted. They have who knows what their background is, criminal background, and we're not checking them out. Right now, Customs and Border Protection is working as a travel agency, right? They basically say, hey, where do you want to go? They take them there, right? No papers, no ID, no COVID shot, nothing. And so right now, I think people are fed up with it. But for Nevada, what we need to do is we need to get 67% of the land in Nevada is owned by the Bureau of Land Management. Okay, this land needs to be back in the hands of the counties and the people of Nevada, so that we can generate revenue from it, attract business, and that's what we need to do. I want to make a deal with the federal government. I want to pass legislation to get that land returned to Nevada. And I also want to address the water situation and the mining situation. We need to diversify our economy in Nevada. One way to do that is we need to increase our investment in Nevada mining. We need to make Nevada mining. I want to make Nevada like how Texas is for oil and gas, Nevada for mining. Whether it's lithium, rare earth elements, we get Thacker Pass mine. We have all these wonderful mines. It used to be Nevada mining was the greatest in the world. We need to get there again because these are the resources that are needed for the new green economy. We also need to address the water situation. Right now we get 4% of the water, right, from the lower Colorado River.
That was the question I was going to ask you about the water situation, because I like to send emails to CCSD and the county commissioners about the water problem and tell them why do we continue to develop at the rate we're developing. I know we need housing. How much do we really need? And we have a resource problem. So I don't think there's only one solution to it. I think there are a few solutions to it, and it can be short term. For a short term, for a few months, 6 months, or a year, let's stop building 900 units a month, cut it in half or whatever is appropriate. You're still building houses, and that also keeps the value of the property at a good level for everybody. They don't have to worry about it.
Sure.
In fact, next Wednesday night I'm going to the Italian American Club because there's going to be a woman from the Water Authority speaking. So I want to go and I want to listen.
Yeah.
If you like to go, just send me an email, let me know so I can put your name down.
Oh yeah, and I'm a member there too.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the water situation, we get 4%, right, from the lower Colorado River Compact. We get 4%. I think California gets like 58 or 59%, and Arizona gets like 39%. We get 4%, something like that. I think maybe 38%, 37% for Arizona. But California, they have this most beautiful, pristine, wonderful water, right? They come in the snow, in the rain and snow, and they just let it flow all into the Pacific Ocean, to the salty Pacific Ocean, because they won't build any dams because of allegedly the environmental concerns. Their water infrastructure in California is for a population that was existing in California 50 years ago or more. They need to have more reservoirs. Stop taking this beautiful mountain water, let it right into the Pacific Ocean, and then they cut their allocation down. So we give federal dollars to build dams in California, cut their allocation down, increase our allocation in Nevada. That's what we need to do. And also in Arizona, they have aquifers that they're not managing well. We don't have aquifers. We don't have mountain snow like that. They do it as much as they do in California. We're the ones. That water allocation was made in 1928. The population of the whole state was like 50,000 people or something like that. So our population has gone up way more more as a percentage than the other states have in that time.
Well, that tells me, and I'm sure you agree, that we have a lot of politicians that don't have a forward view of things. And a lot of these things need to be updated because, and like our laws, I don't think we need new laws. I think we just need to amend some of them to update them to the 21st century. We don't need to write new laws.
Yeah, way too many laws.
So I don't want to take up any more of your time. I know you have an event this evening. So first, and I apologize, I should have done this in the beginning of our conversation, is thank you for your service because I know you're also a veteran.
You too, brother. Thank you.
And thank you for taking the time, and I enjoyed talking with you. And
It's
I
a
got
pleasure.
to know a lot more about what you believe, and I happen to agree with you.
Yeah, and actually, I'm the only veteran in this race, and I think right now, in the climate that we're in, more than ever, it's important that we look to veterans to elect, to bring to Washington, bring some leadership, because we're not getting it from the Biden administration.
I agree.
Thanks, Vince.
Thank you.